Yo, Jason here, Diomedes Industries. We're going to do a little video blog type of thing on this build, and I wanted you to come along with it. My brother's doing one on his end as well. We're doing a combined effort on a knife and sheath combination that I need to get done in the next couple of weeks, so please come along with me. He messaged me, my brother, at 51 Bravo. Please check him out, 51bravo.com, and said, "Hey man, I got a really cool news." And I was like, "Hey, what's your cool news?" He's like, "Do you know who Chris Stapleton is?" He asked me this because he knows I don't listen to country music or the radio much or own a TV that gets channels and stuff. So he asked me, and I didn't know who Chris Stapleton was. My girlfriend hit me when I told her that story because she loves him. But I found out later he is a country music star. In fact, in the meantime, since we've been talking, he just won Best Vocalist of the Year at Country Music Awards. So congrats, Chris, on that. I said, "I don't know who this person is. Why do you ask?" Usually that means my brother has a song to share with me because my brother plays music. He loves country music and country western and country and western and western, and he'll throw in some country now and again. And so usually that means he's going to share a song with me, and I listen to it often politely and get back to him. Now, he always shares really good shit with me. There's no lies there because talent is talent, right? No matter if you listen to the genre or not. You don't listen to Johnny Cash and then just be like, "Oh, it could be a little better," you know. So he said, "I've got an opportunity here. The Van Andel Arena in Grand Rapids, Michigan, is a large arena that hosts a lot of things, sporting events and all sorts of other things. But they're hosting Chris Stapleton coming up. And they reached out to Sean and said, 'Can you make Chris a knife? We'll pay you.'" And Sean was like, "Yeah, that'd be great." And this has led us on a deep dive, and jumping ahead a little bit, Chris carries knives often. He carries pocket knives, usually those from his family. But Sean and I had a different idea on this. So we pitched an idea to the Van Andel Arena, and they jumped all over it. And so we're going ahead with this build. And so I'm going to be doing my portion of it. My brother at 51 Bravo will be doing his portion of the knife build, the knife part. I'm the sheath guy. So he is going to build a Sparrowhawk. Now, it's really kind of a cool idea. We've been talking about it back and forth, and I know more about Chris Stapleton than I know about a lot of people now. One, he's everywhere. And two, it's easy to find interviews where he goes through things. He has a really cool interview with Gentleman's Quarterly, where he went through the things that he really wants to have around him, the things he can't live without. One of which is his guitar and his Jeep and some other stuff. And so I was able to learn a lot from him about him. And so Sean said, "Hey man, this guy plays a Gibson, like a 50-something Gibson. And I have some wood from the old Gibson factory in Kalamazoo." And I'm like, "Yeah, I've seen some of those, man. We've talked about those." He goes, "You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to do some sanmai." Sanmai essentially means in Japanese 3 layers. You take 2 softer layers of steel, put a hard core in between. That allows the blade to flex, the softer areas, and yet stay sharp, the harder areas. Sanmai. He goes, "I have some battleship steel. And I'm going to put that on there." I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty dope. Anything that includes veteran stuff." I'm a former Marine. He's former Army. I forgive him for that. So, that's really dope. And so he pulls out this ebony fretboard material he's got and some curly maple from a headstock. And he's got a whole boatload of mahogany that was supposed to be a Gibson body at one point. And so he's going to incorporate all those things, some pins and other stuff that'll make it look super dope. And this Sanmai Damascus, which essentially just means pattern welding steel. So I said, "Well, what are you going to make?" He said, "Well, it's got to be a pocket knife, right? That's what they requested of me." Well, a while back, see, Sean gets to make the cool shit, and then he sends me mock-ups of what he's going to make. So he makes really cool shit. Lots of cool Damascus and all this cool Gibson shit. And what do I get? This plywood, dude. I can't. What's this? So I've had this for a while now. This was a model he came up with for a friend of his that used to be a roommate in college that I happened to know. Had his name written on it. He eventually called it the Sparrowhawk. And so I've made plenty of sheaths for his Sparrowhawk before. They're great little knives. If you see how they hold, they're just 4-finger, right? And they choke up real well, got a nice finger choil, and they're made for fine work. They're made for maybe a fish and fowl or an everyday carry. But the really cool thing about these is that they carry really well in the pocket. So that was our theory. Now, pocket knives, you just can't carry a knife like this. Well, this one you probably could. But you can't carry a real knife in your pocket, right? Or else you're going to shank yourself. So it needs some sort of sheath. Well, the problem is when you put it in a slip that has 2 layers, right? Something like this, 2 layers, put it in there. It'll hold it just fine. That's great. But when you go to pull it out of your pocket, the sheath comes with it. And so if you want it to deploy handily, you're kind of screwed. So what many people have come up with over the years is a pocket clip, right? They put a pocket clip on the outside. This then grabs your jeans or whatever else you wear, right? That holds the sheath then, and then when you pull on the knife, as long as you make proper fit, the knife comes out. So I'm going to make Chris, probably I'll end up making him 2 sheaths because I want to make sure he can carry this on his belt. If he's going to go out hunting or whatever in Tennessee, what I believe he lives in Tennessee, although he's from Kentucky. I think he lives in Nashville. He's been a writer there since he was 23, married a woman there. And so I want to make sure he can carry it on belt too. So that's the whole thing that we're going to be doing. Probably making 2 sheaths. The second one will be really no nonsense. Chris showed us a pair of boots that he wore out that were just sort of plain brown boots. So that's the kind of guy I think he is. I'm going to make him a pretty plain brown sheath as a belt sheath. But that will be the second thing. Hey, buddy, if you ever want to carry it on your own, and it might get tossed in a drawer somewhere. And I'm fine with that, okay? But Chris was showing one of the hats that he's been wearing for years, apparently. And it's this cowboy hat. I think it's called Precious because it's so old now that it sort of falls apart. He's like he said, it's kind of a hat that has its own attitude. It's a little ridiculous, right? It's very super cowboy, right? It's one of those hard cowboy hats, but it has this fan of feathers on the front of it. But more importantly for me, it has a snake inlay, or a snake hat band, snake hat band. So then you turn into a little bit of an internet sleuth, right? Now I'm stalking Chris on the internet. And so I'm trying to pause and see what the hell this hat looks like. Well, the problem is people all make a bunch of knockoffs because it became super popular. But on the GQ interview, he's holding it and he's rotating it. And I managed to pause it. Now, luckily I got a good friend in Texas who's a bit of a reptile dude. And I'm like, hey man, I think that's timber rattlesnake around that hat band. This is also known as a canebrake rattler, right? I said, is that right? And he goes, yeah, dude. He goes, I'm not positive, but it sure does look like it. Now, this would make sense because Chris is from Kentucky and lived in Tennessee forever. And the canebrake timber rattler is indigenous to both of those areas. So it would make sense that he'd want something that was representative, or at least look like something that was representative. And so now I go find, some rattlesnake. Now, the problem is with any exotic, I don't like dealing with exotics because quite often they're farmed for their skin and things like this, and it just gets a little sketch for me, right? I don't mind beef cattle that we also tan their hide. That doesn't bother me at all. But when we're looking for stuff like diamondback rattler, this happens to be sitting here. I actually had a piece of canebrake and didn't know I did. It was actually the rattle, but it was too dark to use for this. The problem is In some states, you cannot own them legally because although they're not on the endangered list, they're on the like dangerous. They're getting there again because they're scary as shit, right? And people, kill them, and then they don't get a chance to reproduce. A side note on this: the Latin phrase for timber rattler is Crotalus horridus. Like, no wonder people are scared of it, right? I think that's a really cool choice, though, because Crotalus essentially means something like rattler or really castanet, which is a musical instrument. And horridus in Latin translated is something like rough or uncouth. And you look at Chris, and this is a rough dude, right? Big unkempt beard, and his music is about traveling and hard living, And so I think that's a really good choice. I think even the Latin leans to it being a decent choice for this. So I reached out to a friend of mine in Georgia. Well, they became a friend when I called them because they're a taxidermist down there, and they make belts that sometimes include timber rattler. And so I called them up and I said, hey, I really need not much skin, but I don't want something farmed and things like this. And he goes, yeah, we're a taxidermist, so we're allowed to own these. And then we have cutoffs. And the woman at the front desk said, what do you need? I said, maybe a foot, and she goes, I'm going to send you 3, sweetheart. This is the kind of woman you want to deal with. I will give you their name below in the description. So she sent me some, and man, did she come through. First of all, veg tanned, right? So they're perfect for making leather. You can see how thin snake skin is. In comparison, this is the cow that I'll be using, right? And this is what canebrake looks like. Look how freaking gorgeous this is. Now, I think I'm going to use this piece. Now, I've got 3 pieces here, right? They were kind enough. This I can probably get 2 sheaths out of. And I love this, but it's disconnected, right? Not that that's a problem, but canebrake always gives you that sort of camouflage look and stripes, right? And this is gorgeous because it's been cut down the belly. I've got the back, the spine look here, right? So, how are we going to do this? Now, I'm not sure how Chris wants to carry his knife. And when I don't know exactly how a person wants to carry their knife, I tend to make them ambidextrous. Now, the design that I've come up with over the years is sort of a kite shield, Greek shield look. So I drew this up, but I want to put this snake front and center. Now, the reality is when Chris slips it in his pocket, that snake is going to be on the operator's side, right? But when he pulls it out to show someone, right, he'll pull out this side here that will have the clip on it. So you can see then how the handle comes off the clip, right, or comes over the top. It's buried. I want to bury this so he can get just 2 fingers on it to get it out, but it's not hanging way out of his pocket. If he's going to have to carry a knife with a little bit of the handle showing, I want the least amount. I don't want this to imprint on him. So we're going to keep everything slim, keep everything deep carry. And that'll allow him to carry this around wherever he wants to and not, scare people if people are intimidated by that sort of thing. So that represents the clip. Here's the clip that we're going to put on it. This is spring steel. Very simple clip design, right? I'll rivet it down and I'll hide it, this inside part I'll hide between 2 pieces of leather. So that's sandwiched, and when you put the knife in there, it cannot scratch the handle of the Gibson guitar material, right? Now, I did a little mock-up of how I'm planning on doing this. Excuse the terrible artwork. I'm literally a philosophy professor, not an artist, let alone a leather worker. So, excuse me. But you see the little canebrake stripes. But what we'll end up with is the shield look will be overall. He can then carry it righty or lefty. He can carry it inside the belt or inside the waistband if he wanted to. That clip works both ways. Or in his pocket, offhand or on hand, he can carry it that way. And remember, I'm going to make a second one of these, right? I'm going to make a second one of these where I do just a belt loop over the back. Simple brown leather sheath, okay? So this is what we've got drawn up. Now, what this will end up having is a single stitch that goes all the way around, right? That holds it all together and holds the snake skin down. And then we'll do one stitch across the top. You don't really need it with today's epoxies or glues, contact cements, but that stitch will prevent anything from coming apart. So that's the plan. Don't tell Chris if you know him. But that's what we're going to do. It's funny because now that I've been talking, maybe that second sheath won't be so simple. Maybe I'll do a second kite shield with a belt loop on the back, and I'll use this cane brake piece and use this one for the pocket and this part for that. I'd have enough. It'd be sister materials. You know, that sounds like a really good idea as I'm talking. So let's do that. So come along with me. I'm going to do a couple more of these, just sort of cut out videos, show you how I'm doing it, show you how the stitch is going to go in. Everything's going to be hand stitched on this one. We're going to do it the old school way because I think Chris is that kind of guy. Come along with me and see what's going on. If you want to see more, check out 51bravo.com or his YouTube page and see his build along that's going on there. I've only got a couple of weeks. This thing's going to Chris in June. I think my brother gets to be backstage, which I think will be really cool for him. I think he'll get a chance to meet somebody he really respects and listens to a lot and get to show his craft to a person and then watch them do their craft, right? So come along with me. Let's see how this one goes. Peace.